Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world today, you're at the new way. Way, way out there today. Oh, yeah. The mind is already blown and we're just starting the stream. Oh, I got one more drop that I forgot to do, and we'll see if I can roust a guest here. Because, sometimes you can talk, but what you talk about is different than what you get. So, give me a minute. And of course, my keyboard spacebar is sticking. And so life works that way. Now I am back as soon as I can figure out how to get back. And now I want to think about thought, because thought is one of those things we don't tend to think about much. But thinking about thought is one of those things that we create everything that we think about. So if you're thinking good thoughts, and good is relative to good and bad, not really good and evil, but that's a whole nother story, good and evil. And it's just a story. Everything you get is a story. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't make any sense at all. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to do a little bit of branding. I am a member of the Virtually Not Alone network. When you see this bubble, that signifies you're virtually not alone. And the folks who come there to you when you're virtually not alone, then are not virtually alone either. And so remember, embody, we want what's best for you. There is no agency. And now that I've branded a few times, I want to shout out my friend Grizz, because Grizz does good work. And anybody who wants to go see Grizz, he's in LARP season 4 now. And I was hoping to have him tell you about it, but we'll get to that at some point. But we're there. Next, the weather. They play with the weather all the time, so the fact that there's snow on the ground outside and it's going to melt away later today is not surprising. It's the first snow of the year that actually stuck. It might have been an inch, and so, hey, it's much better than the fire and brimstone that we've been led to expect. Next topic, water. Water is good. Everybody should remain hydrated. One of the things that I think about when I think about water is that water is really the seat of consciousness, has memory and enough modes of freedom that keeping track of your water and your water keeps track of you. Now, I have some extra water dripping in today because it rained last night and I found my roof leaks. But there are worse things that could happen. You could have to spend an hour with a lawyer. Or you could have to go to services. Life is rough sometimes. You can't always get what you want, but if you try somehow, you get what you need. Right, Mick? Oh, he went to an island. Never mind. So, what is real? I don't know. I have a problem with the geopolitics of the world in that they dominate everything to the point where I think it's a show. And it's like the Truman Show, except every one of us is Truman now. And what goes on is what the directors think they can get away with. And the producers, the directors, and everyone is that nebulous deep state that is off the screen and doesn't make sense. Now, when you try and ignore geopolitical commentary, what you find is that most of your friends don't want to talk to you because they are too busy wanting to get new ideas about what to do about the geopolitics of the world. My guess is that if the world is going to change as much as I think it is, you've got better things to worry about than the geopolitics of the world. It seems to me that we're all free agents, sovereigns in our own right, and the legal system has defaulted by not following its own rule of law. And so they've got bullets, they've got soldiers, but there's too many of us, and you never know who's armed and who's not armed. And so I feel bad for anyone who's not open to the change that's going to occur when the fan hits the poof. And when the poof hits the fan, or whatever is going on in that way, it's going to be reckless and wild, wild west for about 2 months. And at the end of 2 months, everything will settle down and it'll start to percolate. And the people who can do things will have the freedom to do what they do. But right now, it's a tough world out there. And anyone who's out there trying to rough it in this tough world needs to be cheered up by some local comedy. And so the Outside the Box Network will feature my poet, Let Me Out, as an actor, and me, Dr. Lenny Time, as an actor, and anyone else who wants to hitch their wagon on, because that's what it's all about. And it goes without saying that that's the way it goes, and it's always something. So my 7 a.m. meeting took place as it should, and my 9:30 meeting took place as it should, which is I'm here talking to you. And sometimes the contraption of how it works to get around doesn't quite work. I get the feeling that interpersonal relationships are all frayed and that it's time to work back on the group of one working hard to become a group of two, and that there will be times when the group of one needs to focus on the group of one because there's something not in control. And to be in control is to ride a surfboard on the chaos, because order and chaos are yin and yang. And if you don't ride the cosmic surfboard, you don't get ahead on the leading edge. And that leading edge of what's coming in the woo world, as Cliff might say, is one of those things where there's going to be plenty of opportunity, and you have to take your resources and invest them and see if the return on investment can be measured in intangibles instead of tangibles, because the tangible world, for what I can foresee, is in the same place it always is and always has been and always will be until we all change. And I've changed. I no longer have the enthusiasm for doing new things that I used to have. I guess it comes with the gray beard and the old hair and stuff like that. But the time has come where the time now is transferring to another time to get something done. And the something that needs to be done isn't clear yet. So today is mass sounding. On each of the sounding days for the grid, Outside the Box is going to sponsor How It Goes. And how it goes is how it goes. Hello, Peggy. You are a person I'd love to talk to. And we shall do that in the near future. I have some interesting news that is not for public consumption. And it goes as it goes because it always goes as it goes. And so I've figured out that time is an illusion and it's an essence. People say time is of the essence, and it is. It smells very good. If you're breaking ground in new time, then old time sort of fades off and you change your trajectory, and the new trajectory is not quite the same as the old trajectory was, and so things shift. And when things shift, you get illuminated to the point where you've got a change in the size of your reference field. And time is a function of size, and size is a function of time. But narrative gets repeated time after time. And so the opportunities that we create for ourselves this time take place next time when the time has changed just enough. And so true wizardry is learning how to make use of your time when you've got sudden time on your hands that takes a blocked schedule and frees it up. And being free to have modes of action is really important. Space is based on symmetry, and the symmetry point group tells you what is allowed as far as reproducible representations within a being sphere. And if we take water molecules individually and make them analogous on water scale to humans on human scale, then the passage of time, which is normalized to one human, can also be normalized to one water molecule. Now, the water molecule is roughly 10 to the minus ninth, or 3 orders of magnitude smaller than we are. And so there is, very, very little chance of direct overlap, less than 10%, and that's totally within the realm of error. So if we project to what's going on water scale and allow the water scale to influence us on human scale, then it's just a matter of Zen to get in touch with yourself and figure out who you are, what you are, where you are, but never when you are, because you are always here in the eternal now, where we all are here in our own nows, and we accept the virtual reality of not being alone and sharing each other's nows so that we can have something to think about. And so thinking about thinking on a water scale makes me wonder if the water isn't trying to tell us something, and that's why suddenly the roof leaks. The cat has a way of telling us things also, and when the cat is not content, there's usually a reason for that. And so I now have a content cat and a dripping roof. Life could be worse. Where were we? I'm not sure where we were. There was somewhere where I was going to go with all of this, and I cannot remember for the life of me where I wanted to take it. I can look in my notebook, and my notebook has the history of what has happened for me. And if nothing happens in a day, nothing gets written. But I keep track on 3 different calendars. The superimposed calendar that we all have to deal with, which has weeks and months and years, which sort of puts everybody at the same disadvantage. The Tree calendar, which is based on the grid of 64 and which takes the 8 concepts: mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind, and void, and lays them in a 8 by 8 grid where permutations of 2 give you the 64 days, each unique and each somewhat meaningful. That comes out of Tree from my friend Armando Busick. And the third calendar that I keep track on is the Mayan Tzolk'in. And so today just happens to be Blue Overtone Night, which isn't too bad a day, I guess. I like when it's like solar moon or things like that. And now, welcome into the studio, El Brujo. Greetings.
Good morning, sir. I guess it's afternoon now, isn't it?
It is in your world, not quite in mine, but I have been explaining calendars and talking about how I use Armando's calendar in Tree to keep track of meaning of days. And that sort of puts me onto a grid of 64, which is much better than weeks and months and years of the same old grind.
Okay. Yeah. Did you get in touch with Curtis or not?
No, he had to back out. Something
I had
happened.
a feeling it didn't work out. I took a walk, and when I came back, you had pinged me again, and I figured you didn't connect.
It is what it is, and that's okay. It was one of those things where however you keep the ball rolling is how you keep the ball rolling. The world isn't what we think it is, and the insanity of the world. Well, what was the new insanity this weekend?
Well, did you get that? Do you subscribe to Inspired?
Yeah. Oh, the 10-foot aliens in Florida.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Oh, you didn't hear about the 10-foot shadow aliens at the fight?
No, I mean, I got this. I got a, somebody from the WHO, the World Health Organization. I guess they're trying to take over the world, and they want to control everything. And I don't know. There's just so much insanity going on all around us.
Well, it is totally insane. Apparently, in Miami, Florida, the sheriff, the police, and all the other available units all went to a mall to break up a fight. And so you had maybe 80 to 100 police cars converging on this mall for this fight. And eyewitness reports say that the fight was with shadow aliens and rednecks with guns. But the official report is that it was juveniles with sticks.
With what? Sticks?
Sticks fighting each other.
Yeah. Oh well. What are you gonna do?
It's just one of those things that you never know what's going to happen, but when it happens, it always happens. And so I no longer worry about things. We were told that the alien invasion would happen. And so this is the beginning of the happening. It's the last step in the whole game. And then after the alien invasion happens or doesn't happen, we can finally figure out what in the bleep is going on.
Yeah. Well, they've been talking about an alien invasion for a long time. Yeah.
Of course they have.
Yeah.
And they've shown us exactly how it's going to be done. Just go watch the Men in Black.
It's just more fear mongering, that's all. Fear porn. There's plenty of that.
Isn't everything?
Well, not everything, but there's plenty of it.
It's nice to be able to not pay attention to anything. But then you turn on anything that is a screen and it all of a sudden is your attention is focused on their narrative again.
Yeah, whatever that is. Yeah, I'm pretty tired of it. I'm tired of life on Earth, quite frankly. I mean, I don't want to die, but I mean, I'm tired of being here.
Well,
pretty stupid.
The roles we're playing in now are not nearly as fulfilling as the roles we were led to believe we would have when we grew up and got a life as youngsters. By the time I was in college, I already was planning to do a lot of cool things. And by the time I got to grad school, my understanding of how the world worked was I knew what was going on. I didn't expect to have the rug pulled out of me in that the factual basis of everything I was told in college to be completely wrong, just to keep up this illusion of what WTF?
What's WTF?
What the fuck?
Oh, what the fuck? Yes, okay, thank you. I see it in print so often I don't even recognize it when somebody says it.
Sure. And the way that we get to do things now doesn't matter. We're all tagged and targeted anyway. So we can do just about anything we can do. And when we really piss them off, they'll arrest us. And then everybody will do the same thing we did because that's what got under their skin.
Yeah. Well, I'm somewhat fortunate in that I really appreciate and trust the local police here. They have never ever fucked with me, and they don't cause trouble. They are really pretty good citizens in my estimation, and I've been a lot of places where that is not the case with the police.
It depends on what the individual police person sees their role as. If you can get the police down to a personal basis, they're good people and they're trying to do a job.
Yep.
But
Yep.
when they are gang enforcing something, or they've taken orders that this is their behavior, they have to do it, sometimes they're not so nice. Um, the whole kicker for me in that episode where the policeman knelt down on the guy having his drug episode and they turned it into a cause to riot throughout the city of Minneapolis, that whole game turned out to be a total railroad job and an illusion made just by the media to essentially allow unlawfulness. That game has to stop.
We can
We,
always
we
rely on the media to,
yeah, we have to be our own media.
Yeah.
And so I started this episode when I first got on by explaining that outside the box entertainment was going to be my new form of doing business in media. And like Grizz has branded the Virtually Not Alone network, I'll work on branding outside the box so that we get very entertaining, non-traditional speakers talking about things they know that don't really see media anywhere else.
Right.
And we need it. We don't have legitimate media anymore.
No, we don't. Well, there's some legitimate media, but it's hidden. Really, it's not in the mainstream. You got to go looking for it. There's still some good journalists out there. We just lost a great journalist, John Pilger.
Really? If we seek hard enough, maybe we'll find him again.
Well,
We should give a shout out. We should give a shout out to James Kunstler. He's the journalist that I like right now.
Yeah, he'd probably
who
come on
seems
with us.
to be on point.
I'm gonna talk to him via email on a fairly regular basis. So I could invite him on, or I could give you his email address and you could invite him yourself. But he knows who I am.
It might be worth getting him on, but I'm not relating right now to the world of geopolitics. And that's the world he likes to play in, the sandbox.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the whole concept of the world made by hand, which is his novel that he has his website for to promote. And he wrote a sequence of 5 books set in upper New York State that was a potential future based on predictions that are, well, they're okay. Everybody has their own predictions for what's going on, and we're all right. And everybody gets exactly what they think they're going to get. So the better off we handle ourselves, the less expectation, the more we can receive. And the more expectation, the less we will receive. And the thing is to get on the right frequency and to pay attention. So if you're paying attention and resonating at the right frequency, good things happen to you.
Well, I agree with that. I think I'm probably resonating about as intelligently as I can at the moment.
Well, I get to go to my sauna this afternoon.
Oh, nice. I wish I was doing that. That would be delightful.
Yep, it's a reward for spending an hour with a lawyer this morning.
Yeah.
But
In regards to your mom and the
yep,
estate, yeah. How did that all work out?
fine. Nothing has changed between the hour previous and the hour following.
Yeah. Okay.
But the the basics are all going to get taken care of, and the time frame is all nebulous. I can work with that. At some point, somebody's going to ask me for my address so that they can mail me papers that I have to sign, and that will tell me that the ball has started moving. Until I get papers that I have to sign, there's nothing really much going on.
Right. I don't believe I had to sign anything when my mom passed.
Yeah, but did you have to deal with siblings and trust estates?
Well, she had an estate. Um, it was managed by Merrill Lynch, and I did not have to deal with my sibling, my sister, and I don't deal with her because she's dishonest and a thief. So I've just given up on her. It's too bad, but that's just the way that it is with some people. So I think that Merrill Lynch stole a bunch of her money, but there isn't any way to really prove it. They had complete control of her, of what money she had, and
Yes.
it was just a shit show. Sounds like things worked out a little bit better in your particular instance.
I hope so. We'll see how it all goes. I wrote down some questions that I had that I'll talk with my siblings about, and we'll get to see what's going on. But they're both down in Florida dealing with yesterday's events,
Yeah.
which they tried to Zoom, and somebody who didn't understand technology on the Zoom call managed to talk over the services as they were going on.
Oh, right.
And so after a while, I just said, enough of this,
Yeah.
and turned it off
Yeah.
because
I was wondering how that went for you.
the audio was not good. And it was just somebody with a cell phone taking video pictures. So you, but the interesting thing was there were about 8 different people from the family on Zoom. And before the service, we had a pretty nice catch up conversation with each other.
Hmm.
But then the service took over, and they only had the Zoom call set for half an hour. And so that's okay. I spent about 23 minutes there before I finally said, okay, I don't want to hear this woman whine. Click.
Yeah. Yeah, that had to be annoying.
But I think we get the annoying just to push our buttons. And if we don't let it push our buttons, we smile and say, fine, que sera, what will be, will be. It happens, and then we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And my disposition is better for the fact that I no longer take everything personal, but it's all personal. Just
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I try and treat everybody with proper due respect. Uh, Same respect I treat myself with. Sometimes it's a little tongue in cheek, but that's just life. You got to laugh Because if you don't laugh, you can cry.
I do both. I do cry sometimes uncontrollably, and I routinely chuckle.
Well, I have noticed that in holding my computer here on my lap the way it is, that I've got an interesting video game going on the screen in the background behind my head. In that I it's sort of like symmetric patterns moving and shuffling.
Yeah,
It's
it looks
almost
like
a way of telling frequency.
yeah. Look, you got some sort of shade out there, right?
Yeah, it's actually a bamboo shade over a window, and I don't see it near as light as what it seems with the camera.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it
Cameras,
was bamboo, but
yeah, cameras are not quite the same as eyesight. And in
no.
fact, eyesight might not be the same as eyesight anymore because I seem to see things now that aren't there. And like, I'm looking out the side door through a curtain and I see colors flashing. And then I realize I have a crystal hanging out there, and it's just the color of the sun striking the crystal as the crystal spins in the wind, giving me a color show. Kind of cool, though.
I see things that aren't there quite often, and I see shadows, and you know, it's almost like I don't know how to explain it. It's it's weird. I've gotten accustomed to it, but
Well, I don't think it's that weird. I think there are dimensions of space time that are outside of our purview, but very much there, but that our explanation of space time is a box that we've been put in, that we can't hold that concept and also get reality correct. So we kind of got to go back and drop the whole relativity game and rethink how things are in terms of a background that's a subether or etheric and finite space in different dimensions and fractal realities. And they're all related. And unfortunately, the domain of academic science has sort of taken the language and shifted the conversation.
well, I think that they've had an agenda for a long time, and they have definitely messed with most of the reality that pours into us, unless we are directly experiencing.
Yeah, really. Who would have thought we would have elected Obama, then Trump, then Biden? It's
I
one of
wish
those
all the
things.
politicians would go away. I wish they would all just go away, and all the
Yeah.
warmongering can go away with it. The deep state and the Pentagon, they can all go away.
Well, assuming they do go away, and we can also throw out the banking industry with the economists who print the money and then predict how we're going to spend it by not letting us spend any of it and giving it all to billionaires so that they can spend it on crickets for breakfast. And so
They, yeah,
I'm just not into
it's pretty
any
messed
of
up.
what we're seeing as real. I think maybe there was a time rift in 2012 and a whole bunch of NPCs got left on this planet and they're not really there, but they're marching to the beat of the structured order that's falling into chaos, and that the better the chaos, the better the next structured order will be, very much unlike this one, because this one has proved untenable. But nobody can predict what's coming out of the chaos. It's like going back in Fibonacci, and as you count down, you get 8, go to 5, go to 3, go to 2, go to 1, go to 1, go to 0. And when you're at 0, you're at the 0 point energy. And when you go back to 1, you have shifted scale. And so finding a way to turn your 0 point energy into management of your own personal chaos in the order of the universe is going to be very, very much the way to get through the next 6 to 18 months.
Yeah, there's
Because,
a lot going to happen in the next 6 to 18 months, I'm afraid.
yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah, by the time we get 18 months out, the nominal election in the United States will have taken place, along with the swearing at whoever gets elected. And at that point, the dictatorship will then try to ram through what they think we need. And so I don't think we get there. I think the reality breaks down before then.
Mm. Yeah, that's a. I don't. That's not really a comforting thought either. So,
Well, keeping in the same reality isn't comforting. Breaking down out of the reality isn't comforting. I guess that doesn't leave too many other options, but there's always another way.
yeah,
March to a different drum or don't pay any attention, and you stand a much better chance of finding that way than going along with the current game in any fashion.
yeah. There's just too much crazy shit going on.
And so the only thing you can do is get out in nature, go for a lot of walks, take the time to be in space where you don't have to listen to a screen.
Right.
And the more time you spend in spaces with no screen, and the sauna is one of those spaces because when I get into the sauna, if I take my phone in, it takes about 10 minutes and it overheats.
Well, as you know, like I've told you, I don't have a phone. I don't have a cell phone. The only phone I've got is computer based. And so when I go for a walk, I'm completely analog, and I like that.
Yes, it is very fulfilling to be completely analog,
Hmm.
but we couldn't stream that way. And so I kind of think that to do everything justice, we have to sort of look and watch and not participate in a whole bunch of created drama that's going to come in the world. But as far as I can see, if we thought last year was on steroids, wait till you see the next few months of this year. The prognosticators that I used to watch are so drilled in on attacking the story or supporting the story that I don't even know what the story is anymore. I can't watch most of those. Um, I'm lost in the idea of how the division of politics and revision and religion became so antipathetic with each other that it seems like all the left does is Christian bash. And I'm not really interested in anybody's religion, but the whole race game that you get from the media, just it's nonsense. We have to quit this agenda of media and just play people for being individual people who they are. And I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't pay much attention to the media, and the media I do pay attention to is very much alternative media. It is not the mainstream media. I don't prescribe to the mainstream narrative at all.
Well, you are a contributor to this outside the box media where everything we do is will end up branding in that way to see how we can go. But
Hmm.
branding is it's interesting because branding's a form of advertisement that essentially was done to perfection in the 1960s with television commercials. And I remember when we were growing up and you had Pop Pop, Fizz Fizz, oh, what a relief it is. And you know
Alka
exactly which
Seltzer.
product we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the Mamma Mia, that's a species meatball that turned into they cut the, they ran 36 cuts of the commercial. And when the actor finally got the lines right in the 37th cut, the, he leaned back and the oven door fell off. And
What is that?
so,
The spicy meatball commercial?
yeah,
Right.
which was supposed to be quite a bit different. But Alka Seltzer ruled the day. They really had the best commercials.
It's amazing. We were all watching black and white TV and riveted to the TV, really. There wasn't anything, the whole radio culture had given way
Yeah, but
to
TV
television.
wasn't 24/7.
No,
Initially, you only had TV from what, 4 in the afternoon until 9 at night. And then they started daytime television, but at the nighttime, you got this circle with a target and a number in it.
I don't remember that. I mean, it seemed like the TV was always available to me.
Oh, yeah, by the time we were like 10 or 12 years old, it was at the point where there were cable companies, and instead of just ABC, NBC, and CBS, there was Turner WTBS, Turner
Right,
Broad,
Turner Network.
and then there was a Chicago network, and
Well, we had a couple of channels here in New England. Channel 38 was, they carried the Red Sox and etc. Um, there was a couple of what do they call those channels? They weren't they they weren't network. They were 6, 10, and 12 or whatever it was. Uh, I forget. There's a name for it. For that frequency of broadcast, and we had a couple of channels in that realm. Some of which are pretty interesting. This is alternative.
VHF.
Yeah, VHS. VHF. I think is what it was. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's where the local channel was. And we
Oh
had
well,
to
what was the
dial
other
out
ones that
and
were? Yeah, we had
mess with
38 and
your antenna.
56 and 44 here in New England, anyway.
Yeah, you probably. Well, when I was in Pennsylvania, we had several of them, so
Right.
it was all right. I remember, but you see, once baseball was on TV free, and I was in that area where you got the Phillies, the Mets, the Yankees, and then the Orioles would pick up out my way.
Hmm.
So it was almost anytime I wanted a baseball game, I could turn the TV on, and there was a baseball game in the background.
Yeah.
So that pacified me. But it was definitely growing up in front of the TV set as a in toddler, watching quiz shows and being mindset for the next.
Yeah.
I don't know. I broke out sometime 19 between 1997 and 2001. I decided that reality couldn't be what I was taught in school, and then proceeded to watch my reality fall apart, such that by the time I got to Ashland, I was broken of the visions that I had thoroughly gotten from my education, and was kind of bitter, kind of out there on the edge. But I've learned to twist it around so that now I'm doing fine.
What year did you graduate high school, Annie?
76,
Okay. All right. Yeah. I
the year of the
graduated.
party. What
I
year?
graduated 70. I graduated.
Seven?
I graduated undergraduate college in '74.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you were that much older than I was.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Wasn't that a Supertramp song?
Just a little bit, maybe. I don't know. I was never a big fan of Supertramp.
I don't know.
I was listening to Zeppelin, and Floyd and the Beatles and many others. I just never got into Supertramp.
I, I went into a lot of groups like Supertramp and Squeeze and Steve Miller Band and
Steve Miller
out
Band was
that
good.
direction.
I never even heard of Squeeze, but I listened to Steve Miller a lot.
Yeah, there's
We
always
had a
time for
lot of good
that.
music. We were very fortunate. All the music that we had when we were growing up. I was especially fortunate, because I had that 6 years on you, and boy, there was a lot of music coming out of the late '60s and early '70s that I still listen to now. Incredible, incredibly good music.
Yeah, whereas I picked up the Beatles because they were on mass overplay the whole time. But beyond the Beatles, it wasn't until I got to college that I actually branched out and had people who already knew their music teach me their genres. So
I
I
love
went,
Zappa too, Mountain Devil. Zappa was great. I remember seeing him on what the heck was it? Some show.
Ed Sullivan.
Yeah, it was Ed Sullivan. He played the bicycle. He had a bicycle upside down, and he was playing the bicycle somehow. I forget how he did it, but it was. I mean, Zappa was so creative and so out there, And he was really a refreshing character as far as I was concerned. I love Zappa.
The song that sticks to me whenever I hear Zappa is the one about dental floss.
Oh yeah,
Moving to Montana.
soon. And that was the first place I went. When I graduated from college, I worked for a while as a teacher naturalist at a national wildlife refuge, and then I decided it was time for me to, you know, branch out and go out west and travel a little bit. And I ended up in Idaho and Montana for about 4 or 5 years, Missoula. So I got my share of dental floss tattooing music.
Good.
I played a lot of music when I was in Montana too. And I was playing a lot more music back then than I do now.
All right. Well, I see that the broadcast is approaching an hour.
Yeah.
It has been
Okay.
good to talk with you.
Likewise.
And yeah, it's time to see how the world works once again. And I'll get
Well,
into the sauna by 2:30 this afternoon.
enjoy yourself. Have a great day, and maybe the next time we get together, we can get Howie on.
Sure. I haven't invested yet in more bandwidth, but I plan to do that here one of these days.
Yeah.
And so once I have unlimited bandwidth, it'll make it easier to just have the broadcast. And getting together people to discuss issues that are not in the public domain is going to be a good starting grid for the entertainment. Outside the box with an H.
Yeah, I like that. That works for me too. I've
All
been
right.
outside the box for a long time.
Certainly.
All right,
All right.
honey. Take care of yourself.
Yep. Be well, Bruce.
You too.